This is Glenn Hughes, the voice of rock, and you're listening to Music Mania.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do, then done.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Switzer.
You are locked and loaded right here on the Music Mania podcast. Your money stays and plays with me, Clint Switzer, your host. You know the songs. Now you're going to hear the stories. And this week we have a very special guest. It is, in fact, a performer I've been a fan of for many years. Lizzy Borden, an act that is synonymous with Metal Blade Records, going back to some of their classic albums from the 80s like Love You to Pieces, Menace to Society, Terrorizing, Visualize, and of course Master of Disguise. Lizzy Borden has a new album coming out on June 15th through Metal Blade Records. It's called My Midnight Things. Very excited about this new release. His last album, Appointment with Death, was an absolute classic, one of my favorite albums from 2007, and now 11 years later, Lizzy is back. He's got a new album. It's about to come out, and a whole new tour is getting ready to get rolled out there. So things are really ramping up in the Lizzy Borden camp, and we're very excited for them, as I've been a lifelong fan. Since I was a kid, I remember renting the VHS copy of the Murderous Metal Roadshow from my local video store and just wearing that out. I was always just entranced with Lizzy's performance, his voice, the band, how they sounded. They were very different and just very theatrical, very much in the vein of, Kiss, Alice Cooper, David Bowie. Those were kind of some of Lizzy's influences, and you could see it on that video. And then things kind of changed for the band. They went on to do albums like Menace to Society, Terrorizing, Visualize, Master of Disguise, and so that kind of kept them afloat. They really had a very decent career while not ascending to the top of the rock and roll food chain necessarily. They were always able to maintain a stable career, and Lizzy's very respected as one of the best voices out there, still a tremendous performer. Can't wait to see what he's going to roll out on this next tour, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Murderous Metal Roadshow. We're going to go all the way back to the 80s and talk about some of those albums and kind of how this album came about. Why 11 years? Why has it taken this long? Why has Lizzy kind of waited in the wings to do this? Of course, Lizzy was able to reunite with Metal Blade Records recently. They're reissuing some of the band's classic albums, and it's just tremendous to see Lizzy get that kind of backing. Very much deserved, very underrated, criminally underrated in my estimation. And if you would like, go ahead and pre-order the new Lizzy Borden album. It is called My Midnight Things. You can do that at metalblade.com/Lizzy Borden. Always be on the lookout at Real Lizzy Borden on Instagram and Twitter. He's got Facebook ramped up. They're rolling out the red carpet, and Lizzy's going to be doing a lot of promotional things for this. He's got a big launch party coming up the night before the album comes out in Las Vegas, which is where he lives now. But before I get to my interview with Lizzy Borden, I've got to tell you about our sponsors, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri. For over 22 years, a staple of music in the Northland. I'm telling you, I bought 95% of my music that I still own today from CD Warehouse as they buy, sell, and trade DVDs, CDs, vinyl, and more. 2504 Northeast 57th Terrace in Gladstone. Guys, tell the owner, Randy Ringer, that Music Mania sent you, and he'll give you a discount. If not, it's on us. Guys, or you can give them a call, 816-455-2130. Keep the record stores alive. CD Warehouse in Gladstone, a cut above the rest. Hey, it's Clint Switzer from the Music Mania podcast. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, doing wonderful, man. I tell you, we can't thank you enough for joining us today to talk about everything going on in your world. How's everything been going, man? It's been a while. How have you been doing? What's up? And I know you got a lot coming up on the docket here, my man.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've been doing a lot of press. Just finished last weekend filming the first video, and that's almost done. It should be out next week, I'm hoping. And yeah, we just been on the press blitz tour, trying to get the word out that it's the first record in 11 years. So I'm excited about it.
Well, I know you've missed the press part. Getting to answer the same questions over and over again for 5-6 times a day. You had to have missed that, right? I mean, that's part of the excitement.
It is. I mean, I talked to people that I've known for a while, and they used to do press with way back when. So, and then people that I just meet. So, they all have similar questions, but I try to give a unique answer to whoever's asking.
Well, this is our first time having you on. It's a true pleasure. A fan from way back, and I remember seeing you here in Kansas City. That's where we're located. In high school at Davies Uptown Ramblers Club is one of my finest concert moments here, and that was on the A Deal with the Devil tour. So that was my first time, and now getting to see this. You come out with this new album, really exciting. Talk about kind of the process for this and the writing process. Obviously, the big thing is first album in 11 years. Why now? What was and how integral was your reunion with Metal Blade in making this happen?
Well, it was everything, because I really didn't. We were touring and we were, playing in front of new fans almost every night in every country. So it was always kind of new every night for me, even though I was playing just back catalog songs. And I didn't really have a desire to make another record, because I put out the last two and they really couldn't find their target audience. Deal with the Devil and Appointment with Death, they were just kind of put out there with no fanfare. I mean, even Deal with the Devil didn't even have a video. So it didn't seem like it was worth the effort. People didn't even know they existed half the time. And, they only knew the other songs that came out in the 80s. So I was like, okay, well, what's the point? But Brian Flegel had contacted me and said, let me tell you, it's a whole different world out there. Since the music industry collapsed, Metal Blade has tried to figure out a way to exist and make it happen again. And they're actually bigger than they ever were in the 80s or 90s. So they really figured out how to do it, and so Brian convinced me to start recording again. And then I played for him a couple of 2 or 3 songs, and he loved them right away. So I signed a new deal right then and there.
Your style, you have such a unique style, and every album sort of has a theme. It has musically, they all just kind of they all stand out in certain ways. And of course, you've actually also reissued "Love You to Pieces" and "Menace to Society." Metal Blade's done that as well. So another cool deal for fans. You can get those reissues and on vinyl even, I believe. So it's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean the implement of vinyl is such a unique thing. I think the last 2 records were released without vinyl, so it missed that whole boat. So now Metal Blade's going back through the whole catalog and reissuing the whole catalog. I think they've done the first 2, and I think they're going to go and continue on and doing the rest of them. But yeah, the first 2 are out there now, I believe. "Love You to Pieces" and "Menace to Society," and it's really cool. I mean, I love it. I love. I mean, of course, I grew up on vinyl, and to see it come back in this way, and see, you go into any Fry's or anything like that tech store, and they've got turntables stacked up to the ceiling. So obviously people are interested in getting it, and especially young kids getting involved in it into a dying format and trying to resurrect it and have the same kind of experiences that we all used to have when we got those records. It was a different experience than a CD or a digital transfer. It's such a different experience with vinyl.
Absolutely is. Couldn't agree with you more there. And I'll say one of the biggest parts of the Lizzy Borden experience is of course the live show. And you've still toured, through over the past few years. You've been out there and you've still been active on the road. But obviously, I would assume that there's something big in the works for this, a tour to follow up. What's kind of in the works, and kind of any kind of a timetable you can give us on when we might see this live show rolled out there, man.
Well, the main thing I wanted to do, since I haven't released a record in a long time, I decided I didn't want to launch a tour right away, because usually when I put together a new show for the new album, I play the new album. So I didn't want to play songs that people didn't know. So I decided to wait until the record came out and we got the reactions from the fans and the press and everything. And and then we'll work on launching the tour. But I'm working on the show right now, and the production that I have in mind is going to be the biggest production we've had since the Visualize tour, and that was the biggest. That was Visualize and Master Skies were the two biggest productions we've had, but this one will be bigger, and so it's pretty exciting just to work on some of the ideas that we're working on right now. But yeah, I'm going to wait. Album comes out June 15th. And as soon as that comes out, then I will start getting my eye on exactly what territory we're going to start touring on, and start to book the full tour.
Cannot wait for that. It's been I think since 2001, man. So hopefully we'll get to catch you out there somewhere in the stratosphere on this tour coming up. But you talk about these albums, and this is your third album of the 2000s, and really. And a lot of people will feel this way and back me up on it. Deal with the Devil, Appointment with Death from 2000 and 2007 respectively were two of the best albums of your career. I mean, really hitting on all cylinders. Where does My Midnight Things is it kind of following the vein of these? Where do you see this kind of stacking up with some of your more recent work?
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to judge because I just write songs. But I really, for this, I went back to the way I was thinking during the making of Visualize and Master of Disguise, where I didn't go out trying to showcase talented musicians, which is something that I always tried to slip in here and there. But for this one, I just said the song is going to be the star, and I'm not going to show a bunch of fast guitar solos or some fast bass solos or crazy drum stuff. I just wanted to make the song the star, and that's exactly the thing I was thinking of when I recorded Visualize and Master of Disguise. So, and in doing that, I hear a lot of people say that this album is reminiscent of Master of Disguise and a little bit of Visualize. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking.
I can see that, and maybe if Love You to Pieces if there was a fight between those two albums, and Love You to Pieces came in and broke the fight up, maybe a little of that. That's just what I've heard in the last little bit that I've got this thing, and so it does kind of harken back, but absolutely stacks up there. And because I was a huge fan of the last two as well, and just you've been so consistent with your material, and for me This goes back to the Murderous Metal Roadshow for me. I remember as a kid seeing that live video in a local video store and just wearing it out. That was my first induction into Lizzy Borden, what you guys did. Take us back to kind of that era, Murderous Metal Roadshow. I know you guys had only released Give 'Em the Axe and Love You to Pieces at that time. So take us back to that night, what you remember about that. I think that was at the Country Club in LA, if I'm correct on that. Was that where that was filmed?
Yeah, I mean, basically the video live shows had just started. I think there was only one or two videos out, and I saw them and I go, man, I talked to Brian and I go, man, we need to do this. I go, because I'm going to dismantle the Love You to Pieces show as soon as I'm done with it, as soon as we're done with this tour, and then we're going to create a whole new show. So it'd be great to film this thing. And so he was really interested in it as well. So we hired a mobile unit. And it was the last night of the tour. We had done a lap around the U.S., and then by the time we came back, that was the last show, and it was a homecoming show for us. So we had one shot.
Yeah.
we didn't record anything at sound check. Back then. You didn't really know how to put any safeties in there, and we didn't have any. We just they mic everything, and then we pushed record when we started the show. And that was it. It was one of those. Now I would do it totally different. I would record sound check at least, But at this point, yeah, we didn't know anything. We just did it. So and it captured the exact thing that we were at that moment in time. And it was so raw and so ambitious for what was going on at the time. And so, it was a lot of fun. We doing that, as soon as we put that out, I dismantled the Murderous Metal Roadshow, and then created the new show for the Menace album. So that was the last time we ever did that show.
Yeah, it was really cool, kind of a snapshot of what that was, and as the band kind of grew from there, to be able to go back and look back to that. And it's always just one of those things, from the a nostalgic thing for me. I still love it to this day. One of my favorite live videos that my VHS copy, Lizzy, it's no longer in existence. I had to finally upgrade to the DVD. But speaking about that, I mean, in recent months, your social media is really ramped up. You got the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. How important is that for you? And it's got to be kind of different, because even when your last album came out, you're still kind of in the infancy of the Facebooks and Twitters. Now all of a sudden that stuff is so important to connect with fans. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, it is. It's something that I never really I just dabbled in a little bit of it, but now. As far as the record label's concerned, it's everything, So I'm trying to make sure that all the Twitters and the Instagram and the Facebooks and everything are filled with information, and the website and everything. So yeah, it's become a major marketing tool because it's so exclusive to Lizzy Borden or to any band. And so you're able to do anything you want there. So we're going to ramp it up even more. This is just the beginning of getting everything involved in all the social media stuff, and the album is just about to come out. So we're starting to just throw everything at it now. So you're going to see a lot more posts on all of those formats.
Can't wait for that. I mean, it's great. It's at Real Lizzy Borden on Instagram and Twitter, and it's a great follow. A lot of good stuff already coming out. And it just get a lot of imagery and things like that. Promos from the new album, and things like that. You can check that out, of course, and be also looking out for the website.
Website LizzyBorden.com, and we've unearthed a lot of photos from all the early days just recently, and those are being scanned, and we're going to start posting a lot of that stuff too. And it's pretty amazing stuff, our first tour with Motorhead and a bunch of other things. So we're going to start posting a lot of that stuff too.
That did remind me of that tour with Motorhead. I saw some of these pictures here, and I was thinking about that and thinking about how just in the last few years, how we've lost so many people from metal, from rock, from music in general, and just what a sobering thought that is. I mean, and I think about a year's time, I saw the final show from AC/DC, from Black Sabbath, from Motley Crue, and Twisted Sister, all within a couple months, and then Lemmy passes away. You got guys like Glenn Frey. It's just been kind of a really sobering couple years. I mean, it's really unbelievable, but also proof that your heroes don't last forever, and things move on. It's kind of a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is. That whole there wasn't that many bands as people think that there were, and a lot of us knew each other. So that's really, it's an interesting time, and this music's going to last forever. I imagine, just because of the impact that it had inside of 10 or 12 short years. So it is. I'm hoping that it's going to last for a lot longer now. I mean, you see Iron Maiden and Metallica; they're still playing stadiums, so there's still a lot of enthusiasm for this style of music. So I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, despite the fact that we're losing some of the iconic bands.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. It's just, as a fan, you look at it and you're just like, man, this is just it's a tough deal. But moving on, it's also so positive to have so many bands still out there and doing it and at a high level. And you've always been one of those performers that just the performance is such a big part. You're such an enigmatic front man and has an unbelievable voice that carries over everything. One thing I've always wanted to ask you too is as you travel around with all these props, with axes, with guillotines, with really instruments meant to maim and destroy and to kill people, for instance, on stage. Have you ever ran into any trouble when trying to you play a lot of festivals overseas, right? For instance, trying to get these items through customs and explain what's going on here. Have you ever had any trouble with that? I've always wondered.
Yeah, we had a big incident that actually made all the newspapers in Europe. And we played, I think it was Wacken, And after the show, we flew. It was a fly-in show, so we didn't have a crew. And I just, brought some of the props with me that I wanted. And it was a particularly bloody show, or at least one of the songs were. And after the show, I just threw everything in a bag. And we had checked that bag on the way in, but on the way out, they wouldn't let me check that bag. And we had come right from the festival, so we were exhausted. And so it was, this was before 9/11 and everything. So I just didn't think twice about it, and I put her through the X-ray machine, and the woman said, she obviously saw some stuff in there, and she unzipped the bag and she reached her hand in, and when she pulled it out, it was filled with blood, and there was body parts in there and everything, and she started screaming, and this is in a big airport, like in Hamburg, I think, or somewhere. And then 2 seconds later, there was about, 20 cops around me and grabbed me and just took me across the whole airport and stuck me in a room. And they just kept saying, "What have you done? What have you done?" And I'm like, and then I had to try to convince them to tell them what I do and what's going on. And for a second there, I thought it was going to be big trouble.
Wow.
But once I convinced them, and then they called the festival and confirmed it and everything, and then they let me go right before my plane took off. And they just said, "We'll let you go. We just got to promise you're never going to come back." And I said, "I promise." But of course, I've gone back like 30 times since. So.
Yeah, I just got to have someone else bring that stuff through, and it's a little more dignified than having the tinfoiled cucumber in the pants like Derek Smalls in Spinal Tap. So still cool. Well, I'll tell you what, we're looking forward to this so much, Lizzy. We can't thank you enough for your time coming on the podcast here, and we can't wait to catch you out there. We will definitely see you somewhere out there on the road. Be looking at LizzyBorden.com for all the updates on the tour, and you can go to metalblade.com/LizzyBorden and pre-order this album now. My Midnight Things is the name of it. It is coming out here June 15th in about a month, man. So we're looking forward to it. Can't thank you enough for joining us, and we'll catch you out on the road, man. Can't wait, and congratulations on everything, and just continued success, man. We'll be watching.
All right, cool. Thank you. And we're having a big release party in Vegas for anybody that's coming to Vegas the night before the release, June 14th. It's a Hard Rock Live, and it's free to get into the public. So it's going to be a big, wild party there, and we're going to celebrate this first album in 11 years. So
that is awesome.
Really cool.
Do you live in Vegas these days?
I do.
Awesome. I've always wondered if I could handle living there. I always thought I would wind up living under a bridge because I could be a bit of a sports gambler here and there. I don't tell anyone, but I just always wondered what it would be like to live there. It's one of my favorite cities, but it's.
I've lived in LA my whole life, but I love it here. I'll never leave.
It seems like
it's really cool.
Before I let you go, I know we've taken too much of your time already. But it's funny. A lot of the LA people that lived there in the 80s and 90s either moved to Vegas or Nashville. Those are kind of the two options I guess you have after you leave LA. That seems to be the deal.
Yeah, it's pretty much all of Hollywood lives in Vegas now.
Right.
It's, you no matter where you go, you're going to see somebody that you do in Hollywood. So it's yeah, we just kind of located over here because it's so fun, and there's no time clock ticking. So if you go out and you want to hang, you can come back at 7 a.m. Doesn't matter,
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that is awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time, and we'll catch you soon, my friend, and just best of luck, and congratulations on this new album. It is awesome. I've just listened to the digital copy the record company just sent me over a couple days ago, man. Really enjoying it, and congratulations. We'll catch you soon.
Okay, man. Thank you, and hopefully everyone will go out and buy the record and support the new Lizzy Borden album.
Absolutely, yes. Gonna do it. You bet. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Okay, man. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. And we cannot thank Lizzy Borden enough for joining us on what was a very special show for me. Growing up as a huge fan, literally from being a kid and seeing this very visual, very theatrical style of rock, which I still love to this day. I'm a huge Kiss fan. Alice Cooper. Lizzy Borden is someone that just encapsulates that. The great songs, really good albums dating back to the 80s on into today. Very consistent performances. And that's what you get. And it's almost surreal to be able to talk to a guy like Lizzy that I grew up emulating and grew up such a huge fan of. But that's what we do here on the Music Mania podcast. It's about these artists and their stories. And you guys know the songs. This is the stories. This is what you get here on the Music Mania podcast. I'm very insistent that I keep a lot of my opinions to a minimum. Granted, I'll talk about concert reviews. I'll tell you about shows I've been to. I'll give my opinions on new albums and things like that. But for the most part, I want to keep it about the artists that join us on this show, and we can't thank them enough. And thank you for your support, for listening and subscribing on iTunes and YouTube. It means the world. And keep that interaction coming at musicmania_show. You got an idea for a guest, got a question, got a concert review, send that in to us. You can check our website out, musicmaniapodcast.com. I've always got concert reviews up there. All of our shows are archived, so be sure to check out the website. Guys, coming up next week, we're going to be joined by none other than one of the greatest bassists in hard rock history, Billy Sheehan, Sons of Apollo, Mr. Big, Winery Dogs, David Lee Roth, going to be joining us. Cannot wait for that. Huge fan of Billy's. I just saw Mr. Big live last summer, and of course, it was saddened to hear about the death of Pat Torpey, the drummer for Mr. Big, who I got to interview just a year ago, almost to the day. It's very sad, but tell you what, the weather's getting warm. It's time to get out and enjoy your friends, enjoy a cold beverage, and enjoy some live music this summer, and to check out some of the new music from bands you love. Lizzy Borden's is coming out. Please go and pre-order it. Metalblade.com/Lizzy Borden. That's how you can do that. We always appreciate, supporting these guys. Bands are still out there doing it. We cannot, thank them enough and thank Lizzy enough for coming on this show and doing this interview. So until next week, you're loaded right here on the Music Mania podcast. Your money stays and plays right here each and every week.